So let's dive in here. The first up we got is our guy, returning player, Davion Gause. Trevor, kick us off. Tell us a little bit about who he is, a little bit of his background, some of his impact from last year.
Yeah, man, he's a young guy that played early. I believe true freshman last year. Highly recruited guy out of Florida. Came from a good program. Was actually teammates with Jeremiah Smith and C.J. Bailey in high school. So they had a pretty good high school team. But he's a guy that's got a bright future, man. It's not often, and I think Omarion and him are the last two that I can. And Caleb played some his freshman year too, but it's usually hard for a running back to play early in his freshman season. And he was on the field. You can see this is second game of the year, man, and he really broke out this game. I believe this is the game where he hurdled a defender. And I don't know the last time I've seen a freshman running back hurdle somebody in a college football game. So. He's a dude that should be the main guy in that room. He's got some meaningful game experience. I think he averaged, I believe it was like 4.9 yards a carry last year. So anytime you got a running back that can average close to 5 yards a carry, you're looking good there. And I think the O-line that we have this year is going to be better than what we saw last year. So even though we're losing a lot in Omarion, I'm really excited about this room as a whole. I don't think we'll have – I know he'll be the main guy, but I don't think we'll have a guy that's going to get as much touches or as many touches as Omarion had last year. Be more of like a committee, running back by committee. But I think he's going to be the workhorse and kind of the guy that leads the way.
Yeah, Troy, get in here. Talk to us a little bit about what we can expect, from Davion. Of course, when we had, Hampton last year, anytime, he touched the ball, it felt like he was a threat, to take it the distance. He had that breakaway speed. I'm not really sure, there's somebody in this running back room has that. What's your thoughts around that? And, what can we expect if we're going to have a successful running back room going into next season? What do we need from Davion?
I think if anybody in this running back room, possesses the tools to pick up where Omarion left off from last year, it would be Davion. And I'm super stoked for him this year. Certainly we, here with the podcast, Tar Pit podcast, think that he's going to be the lead guy. I'm pretty sure all the fan base pretty much, assumes that as well. And, in my opinion, just, I don't think, probably outside of Omarion, when's the last time we had a true sophomore running back that we've been super, super excited for, to see him take that next step. And I think with Davion, this year is going to be key for him to make the most of his opportunities. He's certainly going to get the ball a lot more. He's going to get touches. We've heard rumble and rumors of what kind of offense we can expect in Chapel Hill next year under Freddie Kitchens, new offensive coordinator, who's been on staff for 2-3 years now. So certainly a guy that there's some familiarity there. I always get tongue tied when I try to pronounce that word. What you're going to get with him in terms of, his skill set. I think there's a lot of untapped potential there. Chris, I know you like that. There's a lot of untapped potential there. That I just think with reps and an increased snap count, I think he'll blossom into something that us as Carolina fans can be really, really excited to see this year. And like you said, Trevor, especially behind the offensive line that we've got this year, the portal moves that Mike Lombardi and Bill Belichick and that whole scouting staff have done to bring in some depth there, I think has been great. And if I'm Davion, Gause, and the way that, the teaser that we got at Practice Like a Pro, this offensive line seems to run block really, really well. It almost makes you think what Omarion Hampton could have done behind it, because he was 1,500 yards his sophomore year, 1,600 yards total his junior year, I mean, could he have broken over 2,000? Who knows? But it's Davion's keys now. He's got the keys to that running back room, in my opinion, and I think I'm looking for him to make the most of his opportunities and really take hold of that running back one position. I think he's got the skill and the potential, very, very high ceiling with Davion for sure.
Yeah.
He's got sneaky speed, man. I believe his nickname is Bullet, and
Yep.
he got that as a kid. So I'm excited about him.
And shout out to Davion as well, man. Anytime there was a lot of uncertainty, at least from my standpoint. Anytime you have a major coaching change like Carolina had, this coming up, this past off season and leading up to the season, it's easy for guys to throw their hats in the portal and just kind of see, what interest they get from other schools. Davion didn't do that. He committed to, Carolina, and in a world, and in a college landscape, where guys commit to a coach, to see guys stick around even in the midst of a pretty dramatic coaching change, it just shows you, just what kind of player and teammate he is, man. He's loyal, and I'm super excited to have him back in Carolina Blue next year.
Yeah, he definitely has the skill set to make some people miss. I don't think he's completely developed what Omarion Hampton had, in his last season there. I mean, not many running backs do across the nation. I mean, I think arguably he was one of the top running backs in the nation. If not the top, in my opinion. Maybe I do have my blue colored lens on there. My
No,
Carolina.
you're 100% right, dude. You can say what you want about Ashton Jeanty. He had a generational year, but to
Yep.
me, Omarion Hampton was running back one and has been, what will always be running back one, in my opinion, whether you are Carolina biased or not. I don't mean to cut you off, Chris,
Nope.
but I'm passionate about that, man. I no disrespect to Ashton Jeanty at all. He had a generational year this year. It's a tragedy that another player had a generational year as well, and Travis Hunter. But to me, in my opinion, looking at tape, Ashton Jeanty's good, but Omarion Hampton is the truth.
Yep. Yep. Did either one of you mention his stats from last year? I'm really impressed, with his 4.9, yards, per carry. He had 67, touches, 326 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns, and I believe he had a special teams touchdown as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think he returned a block punt against JMU for a touchdown. One of the few scores that we had that game. I know, kind of cringe talking about that, but 67 carries on 326 yards and 4 touchdowns, and not even really just the stats of it, man. You just turn on the tape and look at how he plays and how he runs. Honestly, reminds you of a freshman Omarion Hampton, but certainly, like I mentioned, there's a lot of untapped potential there, and I just think with an increased snap count and him getting the workload, I think Carolina fans would be happy with him.
One thing I'll say, looking back on both of their freshman years, I think Davion's vision is a lot better. You remember Omarion ran with his head down a lot his freshman year.
Very,
Davion,
very downhill runner.
yep. Davion's vision was a lot better his freshman year. So we'll see if he can take another step forward.
I would like to see him, with Omarion, man. It was so hard to tackle that dude. I mean, I remember at the Duke, in Durham, at the Duke game, he scrambled and scurried off, and a Duke player thought he had him wrapped up. Duke fans did too, because he was, running to the end zone, and he just broke off a tackle. He done it, the last 2 years very, very well. I'm anxious to see how Davion, if he can, we talk about untapped potential. I'm anxious to see if he can, kind of channel some of his inner Omarion Hampton and make guys miss, get to the second level or the third level, and and find the end zone. Got to have a nose for the end zone.
Yeah, it'd be interesting for sure. Trevor makes a good point about his vision. Last year at such a young age, right, very early on in his career. It'd be interesting to see the development that he has from last year to this year throughout the off season, and then also with Means being back there and working with the running back group, and then also with that offensive line retooled If I was a running back, in the Carolina room, and I knew I was guaranteed PT this year, I'd be really excited. I'd be really pumped, knowing that those guys in front of me are going to block well. So hopefully the running back room stays healthy. Because after a couple of the guys we mentioned, it gets really young really quick.
Hey, Tar Pit crew, thanks for hanging with us today. Quick shout out. Today's episode is powered by Untapped Sports Network. Big thanks to them for the support. If you like this episode, do us a favor. Like it, drop a comment, and share it with a friend. That kind of support goes a long way in keeping the podcast rolling. Make sure you're subscribed and following the Tar Pit podcast on whatever platform you're listening on right now. And don't forget to follow us on social. We're on X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. Just search the Tar Pit Podcast and you'll find us. Until next time, go Heels.